Hello and welcome to our second RA Q&A. We are going to be covering the 2022-2023 RA application at the University of Central Florida for the Department of Housing and Residence Life. My name is Haley Bernard Hindle and I am the coordinator for selection and leadership. I have the great opportunity to oversee our student staff hiring processes, including our resident assistants, which is what we're going to talk about today, as well as our OAs and some other student staff as well. And I get to work with two student leadership organizations as well with the greatest coworker in the world.
And my name is Tanner Hess, and I'm the graduate coordinator for selection and leadership. And so I serve under Haley and, also assist in advising RHA and NRHH, along with overseeing the student staff selection process here at UCF's Housing and Residence Life Department.
So today we're going to kick off, and please feel free at any time to put any questions that you may have in the comments. We can see them, and we'll be able to bring them up on the screen and answer those live, which is very, very exciting. But to kick off, we are again talking about the resident assistant position with the Department of Housing and Residence Life, and this is for the 2022-2023 position. So position starting in May 2022 all the way to May 2023. The application is open live. It can be found at ucf.ereslife.com right here at the bottom of your screen. The application is live and open right now, accepting applicants, and is open until October 1st. So today we can answer any questions that you might have regarding the RA position, the application process, the interview process, anything you like. We're here to answer those, and we're happy to do so. All right, so to kick it off, this is our first question.
So what are the main responsibilities of an RA? So an RA is the short term for resident assistant, so you are there to assist the residents. I know that's a cheesy way of saying that, but that entails a bunch of different things. So you're going to be serving as a resource to refer out resources to your residents. You're going to be serving as someone who is on duty in the office. So RAs serve on duty between the hours of 4:45 and 8 a.m. on the weekends. So you'll have a weekday duty, and then you'll also serve weekend duty as well. And those are 24-hour shifts. So those are like those office shifts. You're also going to be doing other tasks like fire drills. You'll complete health and safety inspections. You'll do roommate agreements, roommate mediations, and then you're also going to be initiating our residential curriculum. And so we have curriculum that entails community meetings. That's also under roommate agreements. Additionally, some one-on-one conversations, we call them intentional conversations, to have with each one of your residents. So there's a lot of different responsibilities of an RA, so just to name a few, that would be them.
And this first comment comes from Dr. Konvalinka, our Executive Director for the Department of Housing and Residence Life. So hello, Dr. Konvalinka. Thank you for being here and watching and supporting us. We agree, RAs really do rock. That's why we're here. We love hiring and going through this process. So hello. All right, our next question is, how many positions are you hiring for? This is a great question. This technically depends every single year. We do hire a very small number to start in January for the spring semester of 2022, and you'll see this option on your application. And this position only fills vacancies. So this is completely dependent on those who are graduating or not continuing the role to the next year. So that one really, really fluctuates. In terms of starting in May, the standard start time for the RA position, this also depends on how many returners we end up hiring back as well. But we'll hire anywhere between 60 to maybe 90 per application pool to start out. We also have an alternate pool that we pull from all the way through November. So we are still currently pulling from our alternate pool from the last hiring cycle. I just hired 2 people last week, so that pool continues to be utilized pretty consistently all throughout the year from being offered and accepting a position into the alternate pool. So at the end of the day, from our total pool, we could end up hiring 100, 150 people on average from that pool. All right, here's our next question. You can apply to be an RA when beginning school in the spring. We do have some requirements regarding the RA position, which includes 24 completed college credit hours and 12 hours being from UCF or Valencia if you're a current Valencia student and looking to be hired at Union West. So as long as you have those completed, so say maybe you aren't in school right now for the fall semester, but you plan to start in the spring, you can still apply if you have been accepted and are going to be enrolled at UCF. You can apply as long as you take 12 hours in the spring semester and you come in with at least 12 hours from a community college or a different college, anything like that. You just have to have a total of 24 credit hours, 12 being from UCF by your start date.
Okay, so this question is, does each floor have a different RA like Neptune? So yes, I can't think of any. Yes, so each one of the communities, each floor will have an RA. Some floors do have 2 RAs. So communities like the Towers communities 1 through 4, and then also like Northview, they have 2 RAs per community. Some of the floors are split up. So like one hallway in Towers is for 1 RA, and then the other hallway is for the other RA. But other than that, we don't have any other communities that have 1 RA per building. It's usually 1 RA per floor.
All right, what is the timeline for the RA selection process? I actually have it right above this computer, so you're going to kind of see me looking up to read exactly all the dates. But the application, like I mentioned, is open now and open until October 1st. You are required to have 2 references as part of your application. So your reference deadline is October 2nd. So you have to be completely submitted of your application by 11:59 on October 1st, and your references must be completed by 11:59 on October 2nd. Your references are not notified until you complete your application and submit it. So keep that in mind when planning your timeline out. But from there, interview offers are sent out by 11:59 on October 21st. You must schedule your interview online at eResLife by 11:59 on October 24th. We're going to have interviews on main campus, on the UCF main campus, from October 27th through October 29th. And again, you'll be able to select your own interview time, so you'll know what time you end up selecting to come for the interview. We are going to have Rosen interviews on November 1st, and we're going to have interviews at Union West on November 2nd. Additionally, we are going to have a virtual modality interview day upon request. So if that is absolutely something you must have, for instance, if you are not on campus this semester but are coming in the spring or planning on coming next year, but you're taking classes virtually for this semester, you can reach out, and on request we are doing virtual interviews, which is different than we've done previously. But that is the interview timeline. And then spring hire notifications for the few vacancies that I touched on to begin in January are going out November 12th. And then for the standard May to May position, that offer will be sent out on February 15th. So that is our RA application process.
This next question is, do RAs get their own room? So this also does depend on your community. Some communities, there are RAs that share a space with residents. There are some communities that RAs share a space with another RA. And then there are the majority of our communities that the RA does get their own room. And their room is part of their compensation. And so depending on where they're placed, that also like fluctuates their pay.
All right, and please feel free if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. We are answering your questions live as well as some of these questions that have been pre-sent to us to answer live. But we are happy to answer your questions live as well. For this question, when you apply to be an RA, do you pick which community you want to be in? On the application, there is a preference list where you can put in what area you would like to work in. We mainly try to consider this for those who are or are not interested in Union West or Rosen because of the transportation timeline or time. So if you aren't interested in driving the 30 minutes or so from UCF to downtown or from downtown up to the main campus to take classes, but you take, or someone else takes classes exclusively downtown and are only interested in being at Union West. We really try to take in the preference in that sense, but we do give you the opportunity to rank even main campus communities as well, all on your application. There is a caveat with that. If you select any main campus area or community, we will consider you for all of them. That's because we do want to hire the greatest candidates, and we only want to consider, your transportation time, or if you have transportation and any of those barriers when making these selections. If you're able to work anywhere on main campus, then you should really be able to work anywhere on main campus. So we do take your preference into heart, and think about it when making your selection. But at the end of the day, if you pick anything on main campus, we will consider you for anything on main campus. And please feel free to put any questions in the comments.
So how does duty work? So our duty system has two different types of duty. So there is weekday duty and weekend duty. So weekday duty, depending on your community, usually you would have one weekday that you serve every week. There are a few that don't do that, just because like the smaller amount of RAs that are in that community. But generally it is that if you have Monday night duty, then you are working 4:45 to 8 a.m. Every Monday. There are two parts of duty. So there is the in-office part, which is 4:45 to 8 p.m. and then 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next day, you're serving on call. So this may look like you holding the office phone in your personal space and or in the community. You do have to be in the community. You don't have to be personally in your room. So if you need to get out of your room to study, you can come down to the community office or come down to the community center, whatever your community looks like, but you do have to be in your community for serving on call. And so that on call could be you either holding the phone personally or serving second or third on call, where your RA coworker who is holding the duty phone is going to be calling you when people need assistance or when incidents are going on. So that's weekday duty. And then there's weekend duty, and that is a 24-hour shift. So our weekend duty is Friday and Saturdays. So this would be Friday 4:45 p.m. to Saturday 4:45 p.m. and then our next weekend duty would be Saturday 4:45 to Sunday 4:45 p.m. So our weekday duty is Sunday through Thursday, because it's the day you're waking up into, which determines whether it's a weekday or weekend. So for that 24-hour shift, that's similar to that in-office part, going to be 4:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the office, and then 8 p.m. to 4:45 the next day serving on call. During duty, you're doing things like letting people into the community kitchen or the community spaces when they want to rent them out, or assisting residents with lockouts, or roommate mediations, or completing intentional conversations with your residents when they come in, and completing community rounds. And so that would be you multiple times within your duty capacity, going and making sure everything's good in your community. So walking every floor of every building, checking the stairwells, checking the laundry room, making sure there are no maintenance issues or no residents who are in need of help that aren't able to get to the office. So yeah, that's kind of what duty looks like.
All right, our next question is the Valencia application process different? This is a great question. It isn't different, and there are different questions, but this year we have changed to, we've always used a program called eResLife where our application is housed, which is great, but we changed to a single sign-on initiative this year with our eResLife platform. So this has made it a little bit different for Valencia students who do not have a UCF NID, which would normally be used to log in. So for those Valencia students that are interested in applying, you will email us, which is at this email right here, reslifeselection@ucf.edu. You'll email us to let us know that you're interested in applying and send us the email that you would like to use to log in. we will basically create an account for you on the back end. And then from there, you can log in using a different link to get you straight to the login page instead of using the UCF single sign-on. So if you are a Valencia student and you're interested in applying to be the RA or to do the RA position, you can go ahead and email that email right there and let us know. And we're happy to create that page for you so that you can log in.
We already answered this question.
Oh, thank you. All right, what is the compensation for the RA position? This is a little bit different because what happens is we take an overall amount for every single RA to be paid. And then while you get your room for free, part of your compensation, it is taken out of the overall amount. So everyone starts off with the same amount, and then we take the price of your room, deduct it from that total amount, and then we stipend it out to where you get paid bi-weekly what is left of that. This will range from anywhere from, this will range anywhere between $150 to about $213. These are the numbers from last year. They always change slightly, but that is kind of the range. So you'll be paid that amount bi-weekly in the RA position. And feel free to put comments in at any time. We will see them and answer them live.
So this next question that was sent in to us prior is it difficult to manage being an RA and a full-time student? So this is an awesome question. I think that one of the things that we always bring up when we're asked this question is like the concept of time management. So it's definitely doable. All of our RAs are full-time students, if not slightly less or more than that 12 credit hours. And so they are balancing these things on a daily basis. This really just kind of like takes into account, are you ready to make the balance that it requires and make the sacrifices where are needed to fulfill both roles. So the biggest thing is making sure you're putting time aside for your school assignments separate than time aside for duty that week or for your staff meeting, because you do have weekly staff meetings that range, they're usually 2 hours a week, where you are getting together with like the rest of the RAs in the community and your coordinator and your graduate coordinator, whatever that looks like, and talking about like what's going on in the community, talking about like initiatives that you're going to start going through, some events, all that kind of stuff. So that is another time commitment. You're having both of those types of duties, weekday and weekend. And then you also have like our residential curriculum. So that curriculum is like, okay, so in the next month, I need to have an intentional conversation with every single one of my residents. That takes up time. That takes up a lot of time. And so you need to make sure you are creating a structure that allows you to have time to do your RA position and also succeed in your classes and get things done. And then additionally, it takes a lot of communication between you and your supervisor, because there are times when you have a lot of assignments or you have a big exam coming up. As long as you're keeping on top of your RA responsibilities, you know, maybe there's like something that you need to switch or something that you can't do RA wise, and that's communicating with your supervisor, like, hey, like I need help right now, like I need help with this, or, you know, oh, this is why this is, and just communicating as clear as possible with your supervisor, like what's going on in your life, so they're aware of like, you know, your RA responsibilities and what that looks like. So it's definitely possible, and all of our RAs are doing it. It just takes hard work and time management and communication.
All right, we've got a question from Abby. Is the process different in any way for Rosen/Union West? The answer is no, as long as those applying for Union West are not Valencia students. Like I had mentioned just a little bit ago, for Valencia students, you will email us first at reslifeselection@ucf.edu. We'll put that again at the very end of this Q&A. So if you're a Valencia student, you won't have access to immediately create a profile, so you'll just email us and we will create the account for you. In terms of anything else, the process is not different. You're more than welcome to interview on the main campus days if you would like to, but we are also going to be coming down to Rosen and Union West and having interviews in person at Rosen and Union West, so that you don't have to transport back and forth if you're down at one of those communities, and we only offered main campus interviews. So we will come to you. We can do interviews in your community. It'll be on November 1st for Rosen and November 2nd for Union West. But besides that, the process is not any different. Still the same application, still the same way to apply.
I think adding to that too, it's making sure that when you are putting that you would like to work at Union West and or Rosen on your application, you are ready to work at Union West or Rosen, because we take that very serious. And when you're offered a position, you're offered a position for a community, not for the RA position. So you can't decline the community and accept the RA position. You're offered it all in one whole thing. So, you know, if you're not prepared to work at Rosen and or Union West, if you do still have classes at main campus and you're not prepared to make the commute back and forth, then don't put that on your application. And yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
great point. Yeah. Do we put our GPA as 0 if we're a freshman applying? Yes, you can put your GPA as 0. Before we end up hiring, we do a GPA check anyway. It just makes it a lot easier for us, if you do have a current GPA at UCF, to put that into your eResLife account when creating your profile.
So this is a really good question. How did Housing and Residence Life work with / protect RAs during COVID-19 when campus started closing and everything was crazy? So I was actually an RA then. I was in my last semester as an RA. I was about to graduate, and I remember going to spring break and having some time off. I had like switched my duty for the week, and then yeah, I mean, things started closing and things started getting very scary. You know, they offered RAs the option to, you know, go home if they would like and suspend their position, or they could stay and continue to work. I actually stayed and continued to work. It was a very quiet campus. But this was, a lot of things changed very quickly, and this was a time when not a lot of people had a lot of information. And when I say a lot of things changed, they were continuing to change, and that was a good thing because people were learning additional things and continuing to change policy. So some of the things that like we did before, like room checks at the end of the year, at the end of the semester, we were supposed to go into every single room and make sure it's vacant, make sure people have moved out. Well, that wasn't really smart and safe at the time, and so we, you know, created a new system and did that differently. This looked like less people working on duty and or the same people working on duty every week, but we were working from our rooms, and we were completing rounds with the same person every week to like minimize exposure. Wearing our masks and, you know, using PPE, washing our hands, all that kind of stuff. Our face shields.
We all got face shields. Yeah, really heavy duty face shield, definitely.
Yes. So there were a lot of things that were changing, and it can be exhausting to have that much change. So there was also a lot of like outreach from like the department. Like I remember like my supervisor would reach out to me and be like, you know, we don't have meetings every week anymore. We don't get to see each other in person all that often. But like, how are you doing? Are you okay? Like, you know, how are things going? Like, you know, because we were all still in classes at the end of the day, even though they were all virtual, we were still there. So they definitely did pivot very much, and continue to this day to pivot to ensure the safety of our residents and our staff.
Yeah, I think it definitely says a lot about a department, a team, an organization, whatever it may be, what your kind of core focus is whenever you have to make some of these hard decisions or pivoting decisions. And again, like Tanner mentioned, it changed a lot and it was always changing. A lot of times it's still changing, but you can tell that a lot of the focus is on the health and safety, especially for our student staff. We changed our duty protocols where In a normal time, if you got a noise complaint or anything like that, you would go to the room and you would knock on the door, and a lot of times you would enter the room to have a conversation. We no longer did that. We did not expect our student staff to get, within the 6 feet of individuals. That would include stepping into their room. So we did a lot of pivots to really minimize the possible exposure for our students and really try to focus on keeping their health and well-being at the safeguard within our department. And I am really, really proud of our department and how they handled how our student staff were how those policy changes were affecting our student staff, definitely. And at any point, you can add any comments you would like, and we're happy to answer them, but we will still keep going. So the next question is, what are the requirements to be eligible to be an RA? So we've touched on quite a few of them, but I'll still go through them all together. So first of all, the RA position is a leadership position. You are in a leadership role, even though you're an employee. So with that, you have to have a priority on your academics and education. That is why you're here at UCF in the first place. I don't think anyone applied to UCF to be an RA, but if you have, call me, because I want to know your story. I want to know how you know about being an RA here so much that UCF has such a great RA experience. This was the place to be. That's going to fill my soul. But at the end of the day, you are still here for academics. And so that means we do have a GPA requirement. It is a 2.5 GPA, and you do have to be a full-time student for the entirety of being an RA here with our department. There is a special circumstances situation for being full-time. So if something happens that's drastic and you are, one credit short of full-time or one class short, there is a process to get approval for that. So don't stress too much about it. But you do have to be full-time. You are required to go through a background check to be an employee here at UCF, so that is a requirement. You have to have government approval to work. A lot of people immediately think that means we do not hire international students. That is not the case. We hire a bunch of international students. There's just a couple extra steps in the process. You go and you meet with Global here at UCF and a couple other things, but nothing that we aren't totally used to. So we hire international students as well, so don't get worried about that. You just get specific paperwork to be approved to work at UCF, but we can work on that once you're hired. And you have to have a clear conduct record, so you have to be in good standing in terms of conduct. If you have questions regarding that specifically, you're welcome to email us and we can look up your current situation. If you are, sometimes people have questions if they were a witness to an incident or different things. So if you have special circumstances and you're wondering, please feel free to email us. We're happy to help in that way. We do require the operation of a department vehicle, basically a golf cart, most of the time. So that is a requirement that we have. And the last main one to be eligible to be hired is the understanding of outside employment additional commitments. The RA role does take a lot of time, and it isn't always consistent. So during move-in, you may be working Thursday through Sunday, a 4-hour shift every single day of move-in. That's a lot. But then you might have a different week where all you're going to have is your staff meeting and your one-on-one. And besides that, you have no other responsibilities that week. So that's like 3 hours, maybe. And, it really fluctuates. So having another job with a lot of hours or another, high leadership position somewhere else can be challenging. We're not saying you can't have those, but we want to see a little bit of commitment in how you manage your responsibilities just with academics and being an RA first. So in terms of outside employment, you can have a maximum of 15 hours for an outside position, and that is with supervisor approval. So you do have to get your supervisor's approval before accepting that second job. But those are pretty much the requirements to be eligible to be an RA. This is a great question. Are you planning to add fire prevention measures given by RAs, maybe since a lot of fires happening lately? Again, we do the hiring of RAs. We do not create the policies. Yeah, do you want to talk about what's currently in effect, and then I can talk about moving forward?
Yeah, so this is true around this time of year, the beginning of the fall semester. A lot of people are learning how to cook right now.
For the first time.
For the first time ever, yeah. And also, they're out on their own, and so maybe you if they've cooked in the past before, they are used to using a certain kind of oven or a certain kind of microwave or whatever it may be, and now there's like just this equipment that's in there for them. So it might be different for them. And so that being said, RAs do go through some sort of training in our student staff training. They're not in any way like responsible for like being firefighters. I would like to note that, but they do go through some like fire safety, just kind of like information so that they can like give that to their residents. So like I mentioned earlier, serving as that resource, and so having the resource that like, okay, so like maybe you shouldn't keep the paper towels like right next to the oven because that can make the fire spread faster.
Maybe add water to your mac and cheese. That's
maybe
a big one.
add water to your
the water in the mac and cheese.
And so like, little things and big things like, trying to make sure that you're being a resource and educating as much as possible. Again, not serving as a firefighter in those moments, but also like doing what they can to know who to call in those moments. And so the RAs are trained on those kind of things, knowing how to communicate well. And then also they're, RAs help complete fire drills twice a semester, I believe. And so are, making sure that residents are attending those fire drills and learning where the muster location is, like where everybody is going to go and funnel out to, so that there's a safe distance away from the building when the fire alarm is going off. Yeah.
While I do want to be able to answer this question, is UCF adding more fire? I'm assuming that's extinguishers or extinguishers in the kitchen. This is just regarding the RA hiring process, so I can't speak on any policies or changes coming forward. I will say that the amount of fires, while I know the most recent one that happened earlier this week was bigger than we normally have and was not normal, the amount of fire alarms we have going off right now is pretty normal. And I hate to say it, but you will see it across the country in every single Housing and Residence Life and Department of Housing and Residence Life group. This is just a part of the kinks of learning to be on your own, is learning how to cook on your own. And when you have 12,000, 18 to 20-year-olds all living in a building all together, you tend to have a lot of fire alarms and smoke alarms going off in the very beginning of the school year. So we see this very often. I think also to note that this pandemic also changed a lot of things, being that a lot of what would have been first time in college students last year weren't on campus and they were at home. So this is now their technical sophomore year or their second year here, and this is their first time on campus and often first time living alone. So not only do we have our standard number of first time in college students coming in who are living on campus, we also have our second year students coming and living on campus who are possibly living on campus and alone for the first time. So we are all trying to kind of pivot and learn, always pivoting and learning from each other and learning from this experience. And I think that, again, the fire that happened earlier this week was not normal. We don't usually see ones that get that big to where students are displaced and temp spaced. But this amount of fire alarms, unfortunately, is quite common. But I, again, can't touch on this question specifically because we are only talking about the RA hiring process. All right, so our next question is, what ways can I stand out as an RA applicant? Some ways, first and foremost, just be yourself. As many people know, UCF is one of the most diverse campuses here in the United States, and that is something we are so proud to be able to call ourselves. We are an HSI. We have a lot of diversity initiatives, and we're really proud of that. So a lot of people ask us, like, what do you look for in an RA? What's the perfect RA? Who do I need to be as an RA? And it's really hard to answer that question because we want our student staff to look like our campus. We don't want one cookie cutter type of person. We don't want the, STEM over like super type A, always does all the things. We also don't want the, just leadership oriented. We want a mix of everyone. We want everything in between. We want the athletes. We want those in theater. We want those in art. We want those in STEM. We want everything. There is not one way that an RA can stick out besides being themselves. We do have some questions on the application that are this or that question. So it's, play now, and work later, or work now, play later. We have different questions, just regarding personality. And I think it's always important that we touch base that those questions do not decide who we hire and who we don't hire. Those questions are only so that when we create a team, we make sure that we have a good mix of everything. We don't want the same type of person on every single team. We want everyone to mix well together, and we want some diversity in it. So we look for that particularly when choosing to hire and then picking who goes on which communities. So ways you can stand out as an RA, first and foremost, is just to be yourself. Additionally, ways that you can stand out are to show different involvements, and they don't have to be past work experience. It can be volunteer experience. It can be a high school club. It can be anything, but show something that you're passionate about. It can be that, you're really passionate about art, and so you paint and you want to talk about different experiences you've had, maybe selling your art, maybe working together, creating a really big art project or a big initiative, where you maybe raise money to do a really big art project. Whatever it may be, use your creativity and use your passions to really push how you can stand out and tying it into the RA position.
So this next question is, what skills and experiences should an applicant expect to learn through being an RA? So this is one of those questions that has like many answers, and I probably won't be able to like answer every single like one thing that you're going to be able to learn through being an RA. I will say though, RAs do go through student staff training every semester, and just like the multitude of things that you're learning at student staff training, not even on the job, is learning about our resources, learning about how to help residents who are in distress, learning about what the library is like and what resources the library offers, and then also learning how to like communicate well with your residents and have those one-on-one conversations or have those like difficult conversations, learning some conflict management to help when there is conflict management within a space, within a hall, whatever it may look like. I would say, just to like name a few, those come off the top of my head. I think that through the experiences that you expect to learn, like teamwork is a big one, because at the end of the day, you might be alone on your floor. You might be the only RA who serves on your floor, and you are responsible, or not responsible, but like you oversee these like 50 some residents. You also work on a team. You work on a team of many RAs, and so like I mentioned earlier, you have that staff meeting time, or you have like different social times where you're bonding with your teammates. You're learning a lot about how to work with people who are different from you or people who are exactly the same as you, and then using that later on in life can be very beneficial, because you're learning how to work on that dynamic team.
And I think something really important that Tina brings up, by the way, we are still taking comments and questions in the comments, so please throw them in there at any point. We still have about 20 minutes left. I just wanted to throw that out there again. But I think a great point that Tanner touched on was teamwork, and I just wanted to expand upon that too, because not only do you have your fellow RAs who are your team, you also have one or two supervisors as well. And those supervisors you meet with weekly or bi-weekly, it all depends on your community, but those really serve as real mentors to you. So not only are you going to have the experience of most likely being a mentor to those residents on your floor. A lot of them come to you for all sorts of help, housing things or not housing things, class, or or resources, anything like that. But you also get to automatically have one or two great mentors of a coordinator or a graduate coordinator here with our department. And again, you get one-on-one, face-to-face with them. face-to-face time with them either every week or every other week. It depends on how they create your schedules. But a lot of these bonds that we create are really long-term. It's not just while you are on the staff. A lot of our RAs, stay friends much longer. They also get to know each other. I've had some, experiences while I've served on call and gotten a call in the middle of the night where I go and I, assist the RA in a incident or a situation. And now me and that RA have a bond of, we went through something rough together, and we got through it. We got to the other side, but now we created this rapport, and now we, keep in touch and are still like pretty good friends. So you create this rapport and this team, not just with your own RAs, but with the different professional staff that you work with and RAs in your neighboring communities. We do consolidated duty a lot of times on breaks. This would include winter break, mainly, sometimes spring break, and then sometimes Thanksgiving break. It just depends. But we do consolidated duty where you will partner with other people from different communities to go around and do rounds together and to serve on overnight duty to respond to incidences. So those are going to be different people than you would normally work with, and that's just a whole other experience that you get to get. Yeah.
So this question is, how are current RAs evaluated by supervisors? So we have an evaluation process that I believe happens twice a year.
Yeah.
It just recently started to happen twice a year. It used to be once a year, which is why I asked, but it is now twice a year. Our evaluation process is a form that you both you and your supervisor will fill out. So you are going to fill out a self-evaluation and submit your self-evaluation. So you're going through all of the competencies of it, being an RA, and like seeing how you're doing in those competencies, like, self-evaluating yourself. So that may look like, okay, so like I think I'm really good at like getting things on time and like writing these notes, and then submitting that to your supervisor, and then your supervisor is using that along with their own evaluation of you to kind of have a sit-down conversation of like, these are all of the RA competencies, and then you are going to talk through those things. It's like, okay, so it seems like you are struggling to reach like larger numbers of your residents. Like, talk me through that. Like, what can we do to like assist you in making those numbers higher? Or maybe you reach a lot of your residents, but your conversations are like, oh, how are you doing? Like, it's like small talk, and you're not getting into that like deeper stuff. And so maybe that's like, talking through like, how do you get into that deeper stuff? Like, how does that conversation go? Those kind of things. So it's definitely like a learning experience. And so, having those checkpoints where you're like, okay, these are the things you're doing well, these are the things you're doing poor, these are the things you're doing like right at job expectation. We want to see this, we want to see that. This is where you stand right now. This is where we would like you to stand. So they are evaluated twice a year. And so they are sitting down in that conversation while also like receiving like a copy of like the physical form. And yeah.
Awesome. And again, we have about 15 minutes left in this live, so feel free to put any questions you have in the comments. We're happy to answer them. But we have some, I have one more question, I think, here. What do you need to know before applying? So pretty much before applying, you have watched this Q&A. Hopefully you've watched the RA information video. That is a required piece of our application. But additionally, I thought that I would share my screen and talk about some of the RA application questions. This looks very different than what you would see on your screen because of the fact that we created the application and are not filling it out. But we can talk about some of the questions that are on this application and give a little bit of insight on how to be best prepared before starting this application. So like I mentioned, we have these different would you rather questions, and these are all just personality based. And yeah, you just answer it truthful to you. There's no trick to it. There's no filter where we hire everyone who answers one question. We don't take this into consideration when hiring. We take it into consideration when choosing what community and staffing the community. So one of the questions is, why are you interested in becoming an RA, and how will this job help you reach your career goals? The next question is, describe a time when you set a goal and met it. Please elaborate on what the goal was, what specific action steps you took, and what was the outcome of the goal. Our next question is, RAs are part of a larger team within their community and work with other RAs on duty. What skills are important to a successful team? How will you contribute to positive and effective team environments? And the next one is, RAs are likely to have residents with different interests and values within their community. Describe a time you worked with someone whose background, values, or lifestyle was different from your own. What did you learn from this experience, and how could you use those skills to create a welcoming and inclusive community as an RA? And the next question is, one component of our residential curriculum is community engagement and relationship building through individual interactions and community-wide meetings. Describe what community means to you and what 3 components that are essential to creating and maintaining relationships. Take into consideration any of your work or personal relationships. So just with an idea of this being the application and reading out some of those questions, really think about that before kind of going into starting the application process, and you can start thinking about your answers now. You can save your application and come back later to it at any time. But yeah, those are some things to think about before applying and kind of getting ready to apply. We really recommend, especially since there's a word count associated with the application, we really recommend writing your answers out in a Word document and looking kind of at those word counts, and to make sure you're answering the question fully and that you are able to save it on your own computer and don't have to worry with any technical problems. We really recommend writing your application out in a Word document and then copying it over into the applications when you're ready.
You do that last one.
This one? Yeah.
So for this one is, who do we contact with application issues and questions? So you are going to reach out to the ResLife selection at ucf.edu email. We can pull that back up in a second. But basically reaching out there, I know that sometimes there's a, eResLife, ask for support. That's going to take you straight to eResLife. And most of the time we can assist you with application issues, and definitely with those application questions, we will be the ones to reach out to. So, if you are having issues logging in, definitely reach out to us there for those application issues. And then if you're having questions of oh, my application isn't showing this certain part, reach out to us at that ResLife selection ResLife selection at ucf.edu. There it is. Sorry.
Nope, there it is.
And then that is an email that is monitored by Haley and I. That is any questions for hiring for the RA position.
All right, we are also working on pulling up our pillars. Tina brought up that it would be a great idea to kind of show our residential curriculum pillars.
So like I mentioned earlier, one of the RA responsibilities is residential curriculum. And so those RA competencies, which I talked about during the question on evaluations, come straight from your pillars. These are our pillars in 1 second. Our 3 pillars are community engagement, self-awareness, and equity and inclusion. And so when you're carrying out residential curriculum, it's keeping these in mind so that you're able to interact with others within a healthy relationship. Okay. So what you are, trying to do with your residents is helping them understand how to interact with others through healthy relationships, describing campus involvement, managing their academic and personal commitments, and demonstrating personal responsibility related to safety, security, and emergency preparedness. So when we talked about it earlier, when we're educating residents on, okay, so what's proper fire safety here, or the RAs, as I mentioned before, will complete health and safety inspections, and so they are enforcing the Community Living Guide. If you're not aware what the Community Living Guide is, you can look it up on, I think you can just Google UCF Community Living Guide, and it'll come up right. And our Community Living Guide is really just going over the different policies and procedures that you are responsible for upholding as an RA and enforcing on your residents. So that might look like one of the things in the Community Living Guide that is very common. Policy violation is string lights. You're not allowed to have string lights. They are a fire safety issue. And so that may be looking like having an educational conversation with like your resident comes to you and they're like, oh, but I really, really want string lights. I'm like, okay, we understand. Like, yes, they're very cute. I know they are. They really make the little twinkle in your room just happen. But they also can start fires. And as we know, we don't want that to happen to our home. Additionally, we also are using our residential curriculum to teach self-awareness. And so understanding your personal well-being, managing conflict effectively, and discussing the impact of your own behavior on others. And then our last one is also educating our residents on equity and inclusion. So exploring their own identity along with others' identities and that relation and how to work together, interacting effectively with others who have a different identity than you, and then also advocating for those in need and positively contributing to the inclusive communities.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, we will give just a couple more seconds to put any last minute questions or anything you have regarding the RA position, the process, what it's like to serve in the RA role, the application process, the interview process, anything you'd like. Roll them on in there. We'll give just a couple more seconds to a minute.
Anything else I can talk on?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered a lot.
And then if you ever have additional questions, you can also email
right
the
here.
email there.
We do have one more Q&A session where we are going to be answering questions, and that is September 28th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Additionally, we are going to have two more where we bring on current RAs to sit and chat and have these conversations with you as well and answer any questions that you have and you want answered from a current RA who is serving in the role, knows exactly what it's like. And those are going to be September 24th at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then we'll have a second one on October 22nd from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And that October 22nd one is really going to focus on those who have been offered an interview, being able to ask questions to the current RAs about advice going through the interview process or anything that they'd like to share. So join us for those last three Q&As that we have, one more with us and then two with current RAs and us. Can't really do it. But we hope to see you there and we thank you for joining us today. If you do have any questions and you're watching this live later past when we've concluded the live itself, please feel free to put them still in the comments. We will answer them via Facebook or at our next live, kind of like how we were able to answer some questions today with questions that we've received prior. So feel free to join us next time. Thank you so much and have a good day. Bye.